Okay, I want to welcome everyone who's joining us live tonight for our speakers program titled Making Gun Sense with Cindy Montoya. I want to thank you all for joining us live tonight. This program is brought to you by the Bonita Democratic Council, which was established back in 2005. I want to thank my executive board for all of their assistance for the 2023 to 25 session. I am supported by Tracy Lee Taylor, who's our immediate past president, Michelle Cashafagita, who's our VP of Outreach, David Estrada, who's our VP of Membership and Fundraising, and then our VP of Communications is Evan Lyons. So I just want to thank my team for helping us make all of this happen. And also wanted to remind folks how they can get connected and stay informed with us. We've got a lot of options. If you are on Facebook, please feel free to join our private group and follow our page. We're also on Instagram, so you can follow us there. All of our speakers programs are posted onto our YouTube channel, so you can follow along there and enjoy all of our speakers programs that we've had, and they're all posted on YouTube. And then just a membership reminder, our annual memberships are as low as $10, and you can officially join through the Secure Act Blue site. We are officially done with our 2023 membership drive, but folks can join at any time. And again, that's as low as $10. And we thank you for your active membership. And please allow me to introduce our distinguished speaker. I'm going to share a brief bio about Cindy Montoya, who is a lifelong Angelino, born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley community of La Puente. She is the daughter of working class parents from El Paso, Texas, and is a proud first-generation college attendee and graduate from UCLA. Cindy is an artist educator, an equity and justice advocate, and a gun violence prevention activist. She is the Moms Demand Action state co-lead for all California survivors and an Everytown for Gun Safety Fellow. In 2019, she was honored as the Congressional Woman of the Year by Congresswoman Judy Chu for her advocacy in gun violence prevention in the San Gabriel Valley. She is driven to advocacy from personal experience. As a survivor of gun violence, Cindy understands the emotional, mental, and physical toll survivors of gun violence live with daily. She has been a pivotal advocate in addressing gun violence through legislative change at the local, state, and federal level, including working with school boards to take action on securing firearm storage and helping to increase funding for grassroots community violence intervention and prevention programs. Cindy was recently reelected as a 2023 California Democratic Party delegate for Assembly District 41. And she will continue to fight for common sense gun safety laws, support legislation that invests in the root causes of gun violence, and champion policies that uplift working class families. So please join me in welcoming Cindy Montoya.
Am I on? Okay, so Matt, let's take that stat off until I tell you to put that stat on. And thank you, Matt's helping me out with the slides. So thank you so much. It's always so weird to hear like your own bio. But I am super excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and any chance I get to spread more awareness about gun violence, I jump on it. I was never thought I'd be in this position, um, to be an advocate or an activist. I come from the dance world. I was a former professional dancer and choreographer, and you just never know, where life is going to take you. So, but am I am just so blessed and happy that this is a path that was set out for me. So again, thank you. And before I move on, I just have to congratulate all of you for the tremendous effort that you made to make sure that the to keep the psychological evaluation requirement for the concealed carry weapons permit, to keep that there. That was people power, and that's when people get together and organize and show up, you can see what happens. So great job to everybody. So again, my name is Cindy Montoya. You heard most of my bio. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Sierra Madre. I am the Southern California lead for Moms Demand Action. If you're not familiar with Moms Demand Action, we are the largest grassroots gun violence prevention organization in America. But before I get into the technical part of gun violence prevention advocacy, I'd like to share my personal story. And I always want to give a warning if talking about gun violence and my story, it could trigger if anybody in here has been attacked or have suffered from any type of gun violence. Please feel free to turn this off for a while if you just feel like you're not ready to hear it at this moment. Yeah. And at the end, if there are any survivors that are on this call, please feel free to reach out to me if you would like any information more on the Everytown Survivor Network. So the daily fight and advocacy for gun violence prevention is deeply personal for me. Like Matt said, I'm a lifelong Angelino. I'm a proud Chicana, and I'm also a gun violence survivor. I am the daughter of working class parents from La Puente. And yes, I am very proud to be the first in my family to graduate from college and lifelong Bruin. So my amazing parents sacrificed everything to give their 4 children a better life with dreams of a college education that they were both denied growing up in the racially discriminating Juan Crow era in El Paso, Texas. Now, I assume that most people have never heard of that term. It is a term that's used when talking about the history in Texas. And I'll give you a little background. In the 20th century Southwest, Mexican Americans were disproportionately poor and positioned at the bottom of employment opportunities. States such as Texas, for example, determined the location and funding of academic buildings, roadways, and services such as running water and sewers, which were lower quality for disadvantaged, low-income neighborhoods where Mexicans lived. As a result, that inequalities implemented a colonial hierarchy rooted in violence to maintain marginalized people, impoverished, vulnerable, and stationed as farm workers. So this is broadly called Juan Crow. And I share this because this is the Texas that my parents grew up in. They were farm workers. They grew up in the poorest precinct of El Paso, Texas, on the border of Mexico, and came to California for a better life. So, and a lot of my work is informed from the stories that my parents told me, and then also because of my own gun violence experience. My parents' dream of having their oldest daughter be the first in the family to attend college was almost shattered. A few days after my high school graduation, I was awakened in the middle of the night by a man who broke into my house. He went into my bedroom, attempting to rape me with a hand over my mouth and a gun to my head. Although shots were fired, as my incredibly brave mom intervened to save my life, I did miraculously escape gunshot wounds. But the invisible wounds of trauma would remain with me to this day, and the horrible memory of that night, the terrorizing loud sounds of the gunshots, the the stench of smoke and alcohol on his breath, the screams for help that showed up in my nightmares, nightly nightmares, would forever be imprinted on my mind. It took me decades to understand how surviving a violent, traumatic event impacts your life physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. I didn't even recognize that I was a survivor until I joined Moms Demand Action and heard someone else's story. You have to understand, 30 plus years ago, therapy wasn't really something that we talked about. It's basically considered taboo, especially in the Latino community. But it's never too late to get help. And I eventually did that. With therapy and the help of the Everytown Survivor Network, I took back my power, and I chose to honor my parents by making advocacy and activism part of my everyday life. Again, if there are any survivors listening, please feel free to reach out. At the end, I will leave my phone number, my information. So why are we here? We're here because gun violence in America is increasing, not decreasing. Gun violence is a growing threat that all Californians need to care about. Besides being robbed of lives, the 9,980 shootings that occur each year have a huge economic toll on our state. This is an issue impacting every American, and it's not only a public safety issue, it is a public health issue. We all have a right to feel safe in our schools, on our streets, in our churches, our theaters, concerts, and our dance halls. Gun violence is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about your race, your bank account, zip code, gender, who you are, who you love, or your age. This is why we all need to care about this issue and take action now, demanding our lawmakers take action and not be beholden to the gun lobby. So it seems like every other day we wake up to news of another mass shooting. But mass shootings are only 1% of gun deaths in America. I'm going to give you a few stats. I'm going to start with homicides. The rate of gun violence in America is staggering. The US gun homicide rate is 26 times that of other high-income countries. 4 out of every 10 gun deaths are homicides. Access to a gun doubles the risk of death by homicide. Gun homicides are concentrated in cities. Half of all gun homicides took place in just 127 cities, which represented nearly a quarter of the US population. Suicide. People don't realize that suicide is, firearm suicides is really most of the firearm deaths that are happening in America. When it comes to gun violence in America, nearly 6 out of every 10 gun deaths are suicide. The US gun suicide rate is nearly 12 times that of other high-income countries. And again, access to a gun triples the risk of death by suicide. Gun suicides are concentrated in states with high rates of gun ownership. Domestic violence. Women in the US are 28 times more likely to be killed with a gun than women in any other high-income countries. Every month, an average of 70 women in the US are shot and killed by an intimate partner, and many more are shot and wounded. Nearly 1 million women alive today have been shot or shot at by an intimate partner. Over 4.5 million American women in the United States today report having been threatened with a gun by an intimate partner. And again, access to a gun in a domestic violence situation makes it 5 times more likely that a woman be killed. The next stat is just breaks my heart. Firearms are now the leading cause of death for American children and teens. Bypassing accidents. Nearly 2,500 children and teens die by gun homicide every year. But Black children and teens are 17 times more likely than white children and teens of the same age to die by gun homicide. Okay, Matt, would you please put on the first slide? So these are the stats in California. 3,160 people die every year, and 7,293 are wounded by guns in California. We have the 35th highest rate of gun violence in the US. From 2011 to 2020, gun deaths in California went up 10% compared to 33% nationwide. So that's a pretty good stat, and it shows that gun safety legislation does work because California does have some of the strongest gun safety laws. By intent, 50% of gun deaths in California are suicides, and 45% are homicides, compared to 59% and 38% nationally. Next slide. Let's talk about the economic impact. The 9,980 shootings that occur each year have a huge economic toll on our state. Without a doubt, the human cost of gun violence, the people who are taken from us, and the survivors whose lives are forever altered is the most devastating. But in addition to this human impact, examining the serious economic consequences of gun violence offers a wider lens for understanding just how extensive and expensive this crisis is. As you can see from this slide right here, California has the 45th highest societal cost of gun violence in the US at $1,060 per resident each year. And gun deaths and injuries cost California, yes, $41.9 billion each year, of which $1.1 billion is paid by taxpayers. Let's see. Nationally, a staggering $557 billion figure is 5 times the nation's budget for the Department of Education, which funds preschool through college for millions of Americans. If shooting tragedies were prevented from occurring in the first place, the vast funds spent in the aftermath of gun violence could be directed and directed towards beneficial and productive investments such as educating the next generation. This $557 billion problem represents the lifetime costs associated with gun violence, including 3 types of costs. The immediate costs starting at the scene of a shooting, such as police investigations and medical treatment. Subsequent costs such as treatment, long-term physical and mental health care, earnings lost to disability or death, and criminal justice cost. And cost estimates of quality of life lost over a victim's lifespan or pain and suffering of victims and their families. So as survivors, families, communities, employers, and taxpayers, we all pay for the enormous costs associated with this violence, whether we own a gun or not. And this daily toll is staggering. Okay, next slide. Matt, let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, fortunately, there are steps we can take now to prevent gun violence in our state. And one of our main priorities this legislative session is to pass AB 28, the Gun Violence Prevention, Healing, and Recovery Act. The California legislature has the opportunity this year to enact common sense gun safety legislation that would help reduce gun violence in California. Assemblymember Jesse Gabriel's AB 28 is a gun safety bill that redirects some profits from retail firearm and ammunition sales to support life-saving violence prevention and intervention programs. This bill would place a modest 11% excise tax on the gun industry, which is estimated to generate more than $100 million a year to fund promising evidence-based solutions to the gun violence epidemic. So this funding would include support for the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program. I can tell you more about that later. CalVIP, we call it. And CalVIP is a national model that funds community-based interventions for those at highest risk. CalVIP funded efforts have helped drive significant violence reductions in cities like Salinas, Richmond, Los Angeles, and Bakersfield, and the latter of which has seen a 50% reduction in gang-related shootings over the last 18 months. So while there's a lot still to be done, stable funding from AB 28 can help expand these successful programs to other communities affected by violence. And while some opponents of the bill argue that this tax is punitive and designed to prevent or stifle gun sales, this claim is absolutely false. AB 28 would offset the negative impacts firearms have in the places struggling most with gun violence by directing resources to proven injury prevention programs. There's legislative precedence in supporting public health through tax, including the MADI EMS and the tobacco excise tax. The gun industry has itself supported an 11% federal excise tax since 1912 that recoups funding to support wildlife adversely impacted through hunting. So this has been done before. It should not be controversial to support AB 28, which provides stable funding to combat the unprecedented societal impact guns have on the people of the state of California. The firearm industry legally sells products that are frequently used in illegal activities and to kill and injure thousands of Californians every year. It is more than reasonable to ask the gun industry to pay a very, very modest share of its continuously increasing record level profits to help mitigate the devastation wrought by its products. So now's the time to pass this important piece of legislation that can make a real difference in our state. Through AB 28, California can once again lead the nation in protecting public health and safety. So what is the status of this bill? I know I have been, along with many other gun violence prevention volunteers, a whole coalition, Moms Demand volunteers, we have been working hard to move this bill. The status right now, AB 28, this is good news. It's now in the Assembly Appropriations Suspense file, which is what we wanted and which is what we expected. So, and guess who the chair of the Assembly Appropriations Committee is? It's our own Assembly member, Chris Holden. So this is good. And we just need to keep reminding him that this is important. But what's next? So this bill will get pulled off of suspense on May 18th. And then it will go to a floor vote when Assembly member Gabriel decides to take it up sometime between May 19th and June 2nd. So what can you do? Which I've already done a few times. Any California resident can now call their state assembly member and ask them to vote yes on AB 28 by texting, as you see on the bottom of the slide, text the word California to 64433. It is so easy. They will put you right through and you'll either go to a recording or a staffer will answer. And all you have to do is say, I am calling in support of AB 28 to make sure that my assembly member votes yes. They will ask you for your zip code and then they take notes. The staffers take notes to see how many people are calling in. So what is the demand and how many pros, how many cons, but this is a common sense bill that could do a lot of help and save a lot of lives. So please support. And if you want to take action, go ahead and do it immediately. Yes, so California to 64433. Let's go to the next slide. So our second priority, which maybe you've heard about it, is Portantino's SB2, strengthening California's concealed carry requirements in the wake of the Supreme Court's Bruin decision. This should be a pretty easy one to pass because Portantino is chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. So it just happens that both of our, well, he's my senator in my district, and it's his bill. So hopefully this should be an easy one to pass. And again, common sense. So California legislators need to pass a comprehensive bill strengthening requirements for concealed carry licenses, including who is eligible to get a concealed carry license, how licensing authorities vet applicants, and where concealed carry license holders may carry their guns in public. So now that the Bruin decision has gutted California's good cause requirement, more people will be carrying more guns in public places. If left unaddressed, these changes to permit requirements can change the public safety landscape. So one report found that when states weaken law enforcement's authority to deny permits to people who pose a danger, violent crime rates rise by 13 to 15% over what would have been expected without the change, and firearm homicides increased by 7% in urban counties. Passing SB 2 will help repair the damage done to California's gun laws by the Supreme Court's Bruin decision. And this bill strikes a balance between respecting the rights of individuals who wish to carry a firearm in public and protecting against public safety risks created by Bruin. So a few strong points about SB 2. SB 2 raises the age to carry a handgun in public from 18 to 21 and sets forth specific and objective criteria for licensing authorities to evaluate whether an applicant is disqualified from carrying a gun in public. These include important safeguards to ensure licenses are not given to individuals who would pose a risk to public safety if allowed to carry a firearm. SB 2 mitigates the risk of guns in public by requiring licensing authorities to conduct an in-person interview with first-time applicants and to check character references they provide. The bill also creates more robust training requirements for people seeking to carry a gun in public, including a training on firearm storage in vehicles and laws regarding self-defense. SB 2 also specifies certain sensitive locations where guns should never be allowed, including parks, playgrounds, bars, and government buildings. SB 2's requirements for concealed carry permits are written to be consistent with the Supreme Court's decision in Bruin, and the bill provides robust due process procedures for anyone whose application is denied to appeal that determination in court. Let's go to the next slide, please. So let's talk about some solutions. Legislation, of course, is super important. And I talked about the Moms Demand Action. Two priorities are AB 28 and SB 2. But there are other solutions. And when we talk about impacted communities of color, gun violence is a multifaceted challenge that demands a holistic set of solutions to stop the cycles in these impacted communities of color. In addition to limiting easy access to firearms by high-risk people, we must address the underlying social and economic inequalities that fuel gun violence. We must adequately fund community-based violence intervention and prevention efforts grounded in evidence that build authentic relationships with those impacted. And we must support local organizations that address the social and economic inequalities at the root of gun violence. We talked about funding for CalVIP, super important. And just a little background, in 2019, a coalition of gun violence prevention advocates really rallied hard to get Newsom to increase the budget from $9 million to $30 million for the CalVIP grant funds. And in 2020, the budget increased to $200 million over 3 years. And now with AB 28, we need, the problem is we need sustainability with this funding. So organizations, they have to apply year after year. And although this seems like a lot of money, it takes a lot of money. This is, again, spread over so many grassroots organizations that are violence interrupters. So we need to, that AB 28 would help fund some of these programs. Other solutions for gun violence in general include accountability. We need to hold parents accountable for children's access to guns. We need to hold the gun industry accountable for marketing to children, just like the cigarette industry was held accountable for marketing to children. We need to decrease access. The ghost guns are out of control, especially in LA, areas in LA. Those, there are no serial numbers with ghost guns. They're not easily traced. You can order parts online, put them together, and we have already seen an increase in gun violence that are being used by ghost guns. We need to educate about safe storage. There are safe storage laws. We need to educate about the laws that already exist in California, red flag laws. We need to educate about the Be Smart campaign and the 988 crisis line campaign. So I'll start a little bit with the red flag law. So California's red flag law, it allows people to obtain gun violence restraining orders, or we call them GVROs, and they went into effect 7 years ago. Since then, GVROs have been credited with deterring at least 58 potential mass shootings and other types of gun violence in California, including suicides. Currently, 19 states and the District of Columbia have red flag laws. They're also known as extreme risk protection order laws. Red flag laws are a tool law enforcement and others can use when somebody is clearly at high risk of doing something with a firearm, but they can't be arrested because no crime has been committed, and they don't appear to need a mental health hold or qualify for one. So people can, but people cannot, well, let me explain that for a minute. So you can, if you know somebody or you've heard of someone who has a gun in their home and you know that they could possibly be a danger to themselves or to others, you can apply for a red flag law, so an extreme risk protection law. And anybody can do this. But again, people can't use this intervention tool, unless they know about it. And what it does is it goes, law enforcement will go and remove the gun for, I believe it's 72 hours. And that's just enough time to get help, to make sure that if there is any help that's needed, that's really what this law is about. It's not about removing the gun. But as you can see, the places, I believe it's in San Diego, that are using this law, that know about this law, they have really, really decreased the gun violence and have kept many mass shootings and suicides from happening. We have a Be Smart program with Moms Demand Action. So we have trained volunteers to go into schools to talk about storing guns responsibly, not being afraid to ask fellow parents if there are guns in the house before allowing children to go over for play dates. We also have, you'll be hearing more about this later, it's new, it's a 988 campaign. I believe the bill was authored by Laura Friedman, Assemblymember Laura Friedman. It's a three-digit national dialing, texting, and chat code crisis hotline for anyone experiencing suicidal thoughts or mental health related crises. The dialing code lifeline will increase accessibility to life-changing interventions and resources. Suicide accounts for nearly 2/3 of all gun deaths in the US. And most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. Okay, let's see. Next slide. Is it question time? I think it is. Yep, it is question time. So I know that was a lot of info, and but feel free.
Thank you so much, Cindy. That was a comprehensive presentation, and I think got a lot of us up to speed with the great work that you're doing and Moms Demand Action is doing. Quick question for those of us who live, work, play in San Dimas and Laverne. Is there a local chapter that we could possibly connect with if this is a matter that we want to get more actively involved in?
Yes, there is, as a matter of fact. I don't know if Wendy is on here. Wendy.
You know what? She wasn't able to make it.
Okay,
No, I don't think so.
So she has, she's in Claremont, so it's Claremont, so it's close by, yes. And I believe that she was one of the people who spoke in support of the psychological evaluation. But so it's a fairly new chapter, and it would be wonderful to get everyone. I can give the information in an email after this. I have Matt, if you wouldn't mind doing a follow-up email, because I would love to. We have a lot of things going on. We have the Mother's Day Day of Action on Saturday. We are planning. California is fighting hard to reinstate the assault weapons ban, and we also have Wear Orange. National Gun Violence Awareness Day is the first Friday of the year, and it's called Wear Orange. Everyone wears orange. I can pass that on, and I know there will be activities probably that the local chapter, so local chapters all over the nation are doing activities. Wendy did send a message saying that they are going to be asking if you can show up as part of the community. Let's all get behind. I'm going to read what she wrote. Let's see. As part of this community, let's all get behind this important effort and show up on Monday, the 15th at 7 p.m. for the proclamation. So we call it's a Wear Orange proclamation. And pretty much the city council will agree to proclaim June 2nd or that weekend as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. It's been all over. I know Pasadena has it every year. I accept a proclamation probably for the last, maybe since I've been involved when I first asked the Pasadena City Council. Sierra Madre has done it. So now Pomona, which is the most impacted of gun violence of Pomona Valley cities, from guns trafficked in from Riverside and San Bernardino counties, and lack of financial investments that support safer communities as a direct result of systemic racism. So that's Wendy talking about, which I talked about the California Violence Intervention and Prevention Funds. Pomona is, I believe we have had Pomona receive some funds because Pomona is one of the highest gun violence cities in California. So super important for people to show up to support this. This is a big deal to get Pomona. It would be great if we can get the city of Laverne and San Dimas to all the city councils to also have a proclamation for National Wear Orange. It's really easy if you are interested. If anybody here is on the city council, it is so easy. I can basically send you everything for the proclamation, and you don't have to do anything but agree to push this forward and proclaim Wear Orange as National Gun Violence Awareness Day. So yes, I will pass that Wendy's information in the follow-up email.
Thank you so much, Cindy. So we do have a local group. That's great news. We will certainly follow up and do a follow-up email. If there are questions from the live audience, you can either fill them out in the chat box or raise your hand, whatever you prefer. I'm looking at the chats right now. It looks like we have a few folks who have joined the Pomona Valley chapter. Let's see here. So Stephen has made some comments in regards to the formation of the Pomona Valley chapter. And again, we will follow up this Zoom with a follow-up email with that contact information. But it does look like in order to show up and show our support for the city of Pomona, who is scheduled to advance a proclamation declaring June 2nd as Wear Orange Day. So their city council meeting is May 15th at 7 p.m. In order to approve that proclamation. And it sounds like Cindy does have a standard template. So Cindy, please send that our way. We've got members from both Laverne and San Dimas. And we also have electeds who are both sitting members of the council. So thank you so much. It looks like there's a question, how is that, how can we pass one in Pasadena? We will get that template, and I will certainly share that with Felicia, so that or she can get in contact with you directly.
Oh, hi, Felicia. I just wanted to say, yes, Pasadena already passes it. We do the proclamation every year. So
Okay, let me just make sure it's done before June 2nd, because I didn't see it on our agenda.
Yes, it should be. Oh my gosh, what's her name? The in charge of the rec. Well, I know Vanya really well.
Okay.
Anyway, she has on the schedule. She always contacts me early to say.
Oh, good. Okay.
Everything.
Okay, so I'll just check with them next week.
Yeah, I believe day one will be, she asked if it was okay if day one accepts it this year. So day one will be accepting the proclamation. We accepted it last year, and I've done many years before, but yes, the mayor and, Vanya is a dear friend of mine. So yeah, so we're
done. Thank you, Cindy. Great presentation. Love the data and the stats. Great presentation.
Oh, well, thank you for coming.
Okay, so it looks like we have a hand raised by Felente Riddle.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey, Felente.
Good to see you.
You're here too. Oh my goodness.
I know. Well, this is my topic actually. So I appreciate you sharing that information. As a retired police officer, this is right in line with helping victims and ensuring that their voice is heard. And the work that I'm doing now as a commissioner for incarcerated youth, I'd really like to put some families with your group because they need more representation.
Yes. Oh my gosh, please do. It's so hard. This is why I just come in and talk about this, because if you don't know what you don't know. So there are a lot of people, especially in our communities are mostly impacted. They're not hearing about this information. We need to educate. We need to listen to their stories. We need to help fund their organizations. And all the other, as well as all the other, root causes of gun violence. It's not just a firearm problem. It goes a lot deeper. And so I really appreciate you taking this on, and anybody else who just showed up to show interest in learning more about this crisis. It is a crisis. So thank you.
And I appreciate that. And one of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of guns, that are stolen from residential, burglaries, and that those guns are then sold on the street. So locking those guns up is critical. It's in so many ways.
Oh my gosh. I mean, safe storage is just one of the most important things. And when people, I believe they did a survey with children asking, do your parents own guns, and do you know where they are stored, and have you ever been able to get to them and touch them? And they asked parents the same question. Well, all the parents said, oh yes, I store them. My children they do not know where they are. They have not been handled. And I'd say something like 88%. Well, it was reversed. When they asked the children all said, oh yes, I know where the guns are, and I've actually held it, and so it's just so important to store those guns. And I always want to make sure that, yes, easy access to the guns, it is a problem, but we are not, when people think that Moms in Action, that we're here to take away the guns, we are not. And you can see with both of this, AB 28 and SB 2, it's not about taking away guns. It's about being safe, being safer, making our community safer.
Well, one of the things I would just share, and you already probably know this, and when I did gun safety training, it was always letting parents know it only takes 2 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger.
Yes,
And
and yes,
a child of 5 can do that.
Yes, and and we don't call them accidental shootings. We call them unintentional. Yes, unintentional shootings, and those stats are also staggering and just unacceptable. Because of irresponsible parents.
So thank you for the work you're doing. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, and good luck with everything. I know we'll be talking soon, I'm sure. Okay. And everybody, all are elected. California is a big year. I mean,
yes,
it's a big couple of years. Yes, so got a lot of change.
And Cindy, thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that I bring to your attention, we do have some council members from San Dimas and Laverne. In the chat box, you did get a request directly from Mayor Tim Hepburn from Laverne to send that proclamation text to him, as well as Council Member John Ebner from the city of San Dimas. I'd also like to, and I'll send you those emails. You don't need a copy of them from the chat box, but I also want to recognize we have Council Member Michelle Castelfagita on, and retired Council Member Dennis Bertone from the city of San Dimas. So we look forward to making those connections with the proclamation to our currently elected officials. Let's see, are there any other questions? Any other hand raise? I do have one. It's kind of a comment or a leading question. I just saw, and it may be a little outdated, but online there was an image that came up, and it was an image of a Fox News poll, and it finds that most voters favor the following proposals. At 87%, requiring criminal background checks on all gun buyers. Why is that so difficult to advance?
Well, that's what we keep on telling our lawmakers, the ones who are making the decisions, that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, 87%, I believe is what you said, feel strongly about background checks. And yet we're not able to pass that basic common sense gun law. Again, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but we cannot be our lawmakers, are beholden to the gun lobby. And that's really what's going on. It's just, I don't even know what the word is. I have to stay hopeful. We keep fighting, and we have to do what we can do in California. California does have probably one of the strongest we are one of the strongest gun laws state. And we have to just keep doing what we can here. But yes, we do know that it's the federal laws that will really make the difference, in our country. And we have to keep fighting hard for those federal laws, but it doesn't make sense. It never makes sense. And we will continue to fight. And I work one-on-one with so many survivors of gun violence. These are people that have lost loved ones, many people, hundreds of people I talk to, I've hung out with. Until you really spend time with these people and know their grief and hear about their suffering, their lives are never the same. And then ones that have been wounded, their lives are never the same. These are some of my closest friends. And maybe if our lawmakers really spent more time with them, but let me tell you, they're also the same people that give me the hope, the stride, the motivation to keep going. Because if they're fighting for these laws after they have, had not only one, but maybe 2 or 3 members of their family taken from gun violence. They are out there lobbying, sitting on the steps of the Capitol, making phone calls, showing up at our state capitol. They're there fighting. So I have to fight along with them. And that's what, we can do here. We just have to remember that it's people power. I mean, we didn't think we were going to get AB 28 out of the tax. It was the Revenue and Taxation. Is that right? Revenue and Taxation Committee. We did not think, because we had mostly conservative members on that committee, but we showed up. I'd say 60 people showed up at least at the Capitol. People drove to the Capitol. We called every single one of those lawmakers. We, called Jackie Irwin, who's the chair of that committee. We just kept on fighting, and we really still didn't think we were going to get it. And it did. It passed 6-3. So it moved to the Appropriations Committee, where we feel much better with Holden as the chair. So yes, it's we have to, they all give me hope, and that's why I show up. And again, I appreciate you all for showing up, and all you electeds on here. It's an honor to be here speaking to you all.
Okay,
And my
It's an
good
honor
friend
to have
as
you.
well. My good friend, she's my best friend from high school, is on here. And I also encouraged her to be on our slate for delegates, because she's doing great work. And I knew that we needed to have more representation from Laverne. So yay, Isabel.
Thanks, Cindy. I really appreciate all your work. I really do. It's inspiring. Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, good
Cindy,
job,
so-
Cindy. I didn't. I'm sorry, Matt. I was just
go.
I just heard the word Laverne, and when I hear Laverne Strong, and I hear Cash and our favorite and best mayor, Tim Hepburn. And we are Laverne Strong. And thank you for being here. And I appreciate your time and your advocacy to stopping gun violence. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just
Cindy,
want to,
oh,
can I
go ahead,
chime in
Tim.
quick? Hey,
Yes, Tim, please.
thank you very much. I do appreciate this. It's a very important thing. I just think that we need to do a nationwide background check, which we need to link all of our communities together across the country. But I'm very proud that our council passed the psychological testing for our CCW. I think is extremely important, and I would like to get this information to our city council, and our city manager, so we can review this for the proclamation too. I don't see a problem, but we have to pass. There's 5 electeds that need to look at it, but I think it's got great merit and nice work on it, and I appreciate you guys being here, and we appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Mayor
Thank
Hepburn,
you.
just so you know, I forwarded you the email chain where we have the proclamation from last month. I know things got a little put on the back burner with all the stuff going on with the Foothill project, so I just re-upped your email.
Okay.
So you
Beautiful.
should have it when you're ready.
Beautiful. We'll pass it on to the city manager. We've got our meeting Monday, the 15th, but it has been a little hectic, you could say. But yes, I appreciate that, and I'll get it to our city manager, and we'll review it very quickly. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Yes, it's just National Gun Violence Awareness Day. That's what the proclamation is, just to proclaim it as a National Gun Violence Awareness Day. So, but again, when the leaders, show that they care, that you care, then the community members will also follow suit. So thank you all.
Okay, Cindy. So I have one more. I have one question from the chat, and it's from Isabel Ebner. Do you know of any resources, general information, or funding for schools or preschools looking to improve their safety protocols in light of the rising gun violence?
That's I did some work in Pasadena working with the school board to try and get something sent out in Spanish, in like all the languages. So I believe it's like Mandarin, Spanish, English, at the beginning of the school year, and in the school, what do you call it? My kids are older now. The book that goes out at the beginning of the year to get information there. Funding, that I think because the board deals with the funding for the schools, that's something that you would want to work with the school board. And I can help you with that. Just email me. I can give you somewhat of a toolkit to how you can reach out to your board and give you the language that you would need to get, they can pass actually safe storage as resolutions. So many school boards in, I believe it's like Glendale now, we just did last year, I believe Pasadena did. So Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, quite a few. So around here have passed the safe storage resolutions. So that would be a start. So please just, I will again put my email in the chat and you can reach out to me and I will give you some language for that to reach out to your school board members.
Thank you, Cindy. So one last question from the chat, and then we'll allow you if you need to do or want to do a kind of a wrap up. The last question from the chat is, I'm going to combine it into two. So has there been a national vote on background checks? And if there has been, is there a generally available or public list of those who voted against background checks?
I don't know if it's a vote. It's been polls have been taken. So, and every poll says like 87% or so that people want a background check and want to pass a law with background checks. So I don't know if there is a vote. If there's the vote happens with our, lawmakers up in Washington, and it goes just pretty down the line, Democrat, Republican, so if we don't have the numbers, it's not going to happen. So if we don't have the numbers in the House and in the Senate, it's not going to happen. So, or it hasn't happened. So we did pass, so in June, I was able to go to Washington, the bipartisan Communities Act law that Biden did pass, and that it's a start, it's a step forward. It's not everything, but it did include more funding for these California violence interrupter programs that we need funding for. And we asked for funding for these programs because this has actually shown the most evidence of decreasing gun violence. But again, when it comes to the background checks, this has just been going on for a long time. As we have been fighting, or smaller organizations have been fighting for a ban on assault weapons, which it ended, let's see, that was Dianne Feinstein's original bill that went into effect, but it was only for 10 years and nobody took it up when the 10 years, I guess, 2004. So it was 1994, and 2004 just kind of fell through the cracks, I believe. Was it Bush? I think Bush, and then Obama didn't really do anything. And I think because they just didn't think that it was going to be that big of a problem. And now look at what's happened. I mean, it's just a snowball effect and the assault. So we are bringing back nationally and California. This is huge news. It's just coming out. We are bringing back the campaign to ban assault weapons. And I think everybody needs to get behind this, because the devastation of an assault weapon is something that nobody wants to even imagine that it could happen to any of your loved ones, our loved ones. So yes, let's get behind that. And that is May. I will send the information. So Mother's Day, I think that's our first campaign kickoff is Mother's Day. So as a mother, we're saying that as mothers, we're saying we don't want flowers or, candy or fancy things. We want this law. We want a ban on assault weapons. So that is what's going on right now. And don't forget AB 28. You can do that if you want to feel, it feels really good when you take action. So text California to 64433 and they'll just put you right through your assembly member, which would probably be, if you're here, it'd probably be Holden. And just say you support AB 28. Super important. As you can see, it's going to be heard again next week. So,
Okay. Well, it looks like your high school friend has her hand up. So,
Well, I did because I wanted to respond to Isabel Ebner's. I don't know if this is what she was looking for, but in the school district I work for, we are using the ALICE training and response protocol. And it's not just a one-time in and out. They've been working with us the entire year, and they differentiate their training based on the school age students from pre-K all the way up to high school. And they not only train teachers and students, but also they work with structural modifications to the safety of the campus. So I think it's something to look into as a school district. It's ALICE, ALICE, it's an acronym.
thanks, Isabel.
You're welcome.
okay, Cindy, so any final words?
Gosh, just thank you so much. It really is an honor to be able to share my own story and also why I do this work and educate people on what's, the truth about gun violence and what we can do to prevent gun violence. So really that's our goal, is prevention. And, if you want to join us, please, I believe there's information on one of the slides, Moms Demand Action. It's really easy to join a Moms Demand Action group. But again, in the follow-up email, I will send all that information. I thank you all. I thank you all for showing up, for caring about this issue. And please keep doing the work. I know there's a lot of issues that everybody is working on. I've got my friends with housing and climate change and rent control, and housing is one of the root causes, definitely. But we mustn't forget that this is a public safety and a public health crisis. And for our youth, it is the number one death way of dying is through firearms for our children and teens. And that stat always sticks with me and motivates me. So again, thank you. And thank you, Matt. Thanks for handling the slides and for inviting me here. And reach out. I put my phone number in. I put my email in. I'm a volunteer. I'm not really a politician. I'm not paid to do any of this. I'm not an expert in legislation, but I am willing to just talk with anybody. So feel free to text me, call me, email me, and I'm happy to connect with any of you.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us tonight. That is the conclusion of our May speakers program. And we will be recording this. We will be sharing it on our YouTube channel in hopes to really amplify the reach of this message and the action that Moms Demand Action is undertaking. So thank you for joining us. And again, that is the conclusion of our speakers program.